Hi, and welcome back to this edition of InduSoft Web Studio video training series for version 7.1. In this video, we're going to cover OPC communications. First, we're going to cover what is OPC and what OPC technologies or communications does InduSoft Web Studio support. And just to let you know that OPC is something that is optional within InduSoft Web Studio. We have over 240 drivers built into different communications protocols, and it's generally recommended that you use those protocols as they're built in. You don't have to go through an external piece of software to do so, and they're included as part of the product. Whereas many or most OPC servers are going to be an additional charge for each and every deployment of that. InduSoft has been an OPC Foundation member since 1998. We participate in many of the meetings that they have, the seminars that they do or have done around the country, as well as their interoperability festivals that they have, where we go and sit down with other Foundation members and try to make sure that we can connect and we're all supporting the standard appropriately. Please make sure that you take a look at the webinar video that we have online. It goes into considerably more detail than I'm going to go into on this training video. At the 58-minute mark is a good thing to take a look at. When we did the video, that is where we generate security certificates and show how that can be done. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I wanted to point out where that can be found in addition to this video that you're watching today. Also wanted to point out that on the install DVD from InduSoft, you will find some add-ons for the Matricon OPC servers. They're on our DVD. They come as a 30-day demo. I'm going to be showing a connection to a top server OPC server simulator or demo version that I've downloaded from softwaretoolbox.com, so we thank them for that. So a little bit about what OPC is. It is in general a series of standards and specifications that talk about how the communications and the interfaces to that work. Originally, OPC stood for OLE, for process control. And if you remember back to what OLE was, that was object linking and embedding. And if you go far enough back, you can remember when we first started to be able to embed a spreadsheet into a Word document, update the spreadsheet, and have the spreadsheet in the Word document update also. That's based on COM communications within Windows, and that's it's becoming an older technology, and we're not sure how long Microsoft is going to continue its functionality in Microsoft operating systems. We don't know that it's going to be discontinued, but it has been around for a while. So OPC DA, which is called data access, is based on the COM communications, which is what OLE was based on. I believe now that OPC, they've shortened it to not necessarily stand for like the process control. I believe it just stands for OPC. If you can find out more on their website, on the OPC Foundation.org website, and more specifications, more information, and they do a great job of keeping you updated on that. Also, you're going to be able to find information about the ideas and the technologies of what OPC is on that website. And what I'm about ready to show you is not necessarily a very technical preview. It's kind of an overview preview, if that makes sense, on the best ideas on how this works at a very high level. For more technical information, you should really consult with the OPC Foundation website. Anyway, so if you think of OPC as a translator or a middle person, that you only have to know one language. You only have to know how to speak OPC to the server if you're the client, and then it handles the communications on the other side. So think of it this way. If there was an OPC server, and by server I mean a piece of software, not necessarily a piece of hardware server. This is a server-client concept. And if there's an OPC server piece of software that maybe is designed to talk some protocol, in this case I'll call it protocol XYZ, Maybe it's an Allen Bradley protocol, or maybe it's a Modbus protocol, or maybe it's geared towards manufacturing environments and it contains several protocols built into it. That you'll have to check out the documentation of the individual piece of OPC server software that you're using. But let's say, for example, this OPC server piece of software is able to talk to these particular devices, whether it be a PLC, a temperature controller, a drive, or some other device. And that OPC server software is able to communicate protocol XYZ, and that might be one protocol or multiple protocols. If, for example, Indusoft Web Studio does not have a particular feature that you're looking for, maybe we have a driver that has that protocol but doesn't have a particular feature, or maybe we don't even have that protocol or that driver at all, you do have the option to, instead of using a built-in driver, to use an external OPC server, and then we only need to speak the one language to the server itself. Now here's, for example, Indusoft Web Studio runtime might be on a PC, and using that defined standard defined by the OPC Foundation, we only have to communicate that one language here, independent of what the OPC server is talking to the devices on the other side. So if you think of this as a translator and maybe you only know English, it doesn't matter if this OPC server is an English to French translator or an English to German translator. It doesn't matter what's on the other side. You only have to speak English to it, or in this case OPC to it, and it handles the communications on the other side. What technologies do we support? Early on in Indusoft Web Studio, we supported OPC DA, which stands for Data Access. And on that, we are not only the client talking to a server, but we can also be a server ourselves and serve data to other DA clients. OPC DA is now being termed as OPC Classic by the OPC Foundation. We can also be an HDA server. We can be a UA client, which is something relatively new for us. And I'll go through some of that as well. And now, as of version 7.1, we are now able to be a client not only on a PC and server environment, but also on Windows CE. And as I understand it, Indusoft Web Studio is the first to have that available on the market. OPC UA is not based on COM like OPC DA. It's built on open standards, and one of the benefits of OPC UA is it can be run on non-Microsoft operating systems, or I should say multiple platforms, other operating systems. Then there's OPC.NET 3.0. We can also be a client for that. And this is based on a different communication standards based on .NET technology from Windows, which is called Windows Communication Foundation, or WCF. And then we support another technology called XML, OPC XML DA, and we are also a client on this, and that is an additional license. The other ones in this list are included with Indusoft Web Studio. This OPC XML/DA is an additional license. It's one of the few times that we ask you to license an additional product, additional feature in the product. So let's continue on and go jump into Indusoft Web Studio and start taking a look at a few of these things. We're going to open up the help system here and take a look at communication with other devices, and we can see all the help listed here for the different OPC technologies. So here we're going to see about configuring an OPC client. This is the OPC DA 2.05 help here. And again, it's defined by the OPC Foundation, and you can take a look at more information on their website. We have a link embedded right in our help here. And when we configure our client worksheet, we're configuring it how to talk to an OPC server. I just happen to have the top server demo that I've downloaded off of Software Toolbox website running here. This is running in the background on my PC, and I've got some different tag names, or what they call item names, in this sample or demo running. We're going to eventually tie to these. So that's running in the background right now. I'll take that back off here. And we're going to configure how to communicate with that particular server and then show the communications. There's also some additional information in here about configuring and how to set that all up, the scaling factors, and things of that nature, and what happens when you read arrays, and how is that all handled, and some troubleshooting techniques. The error codes that you get back from OPC are a little bit different than you might find in the general status of an Intusoft Web Studio driver worksheet. For example, the read status or the write status, you're going to get back these a little bit larger hexadecimal codes that really give you more information. So you'll see things like security errors, you'll see things like name resolution, proxy. So there's lots of information that you can be finding here, either online or in our help system. So let's go ahead and get right to this. Let me minimize this help here. What we're going to do is go into the Communications tab, and as I've mentioned earlier, you do not need OPC. It's more of an optional thing with Intusoft Web Studio because we have so many drivers built in. You would normally use a driver to go to device. But if you don't have the feature, or maybe we don't have a driver to your particular device, and you can find an OPC server for it in one of these technologies, we probably support it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to configure this client worksheet by right-clicking here and clicking on Insert. And the OPC server that I have here off screen, I will now point to that. And since it's on my local PC, I can find it by choosing it from this list. And it just happens to be this one here. If it was a remote PC, if OPC server was running on a remote PC, I could put in the IP address in this field, or even the name of the PC of the remote node in there as well. I can browse to that, search for that. I have some other configurations here. Description allows me to, in fact, what I'll do is OPC client test. Put that right in there. We have the ability to disable this, get some status, set up a deadband, set up a read update rate, and some other information in here. Now, once I have this connection to this OPC server, I can come down here to the item name. Now, that's the item name within, or what you might think of as a tag name within the OPC server, and browse to it here by clicking on the cell and right-clicking and clicking on OPC Browser. Now, this is actually communicating with the OPC server itself and showing me all the different values or tags or items that are in that particular server. So I can just pick from that. Now, I'm going to move the server back on screen here, and there's some test setups here where we have some ramping values and some random and some sign. We're going to choose ramp XL1 and ramp XL3 from this list. Ramp XL1 goes from 0 to 100 every 50 milliseconds, and ramp XL3 goes from 1 to 10,000 every 50 milliseconds, and those are each in different increments. So we're going to grab those values and then display those on the screen. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go navigate down into this ramp here, and I'm going to choose ramp XL1 and click on OK. And what it has brought back for me is that entire path to get to that particular item name. Within Intusoft Web Studio, I'm going to assign that to a new tag. We'll just call it ramp XL1. And that does not exist, and since that value is going to be less than what an integer can hold, I'm just going to go ahead and put it into an integer. And I'm going to browse again and point to ramp XL3 here, and I'll call that ramp XL3, and that does not exist in a similar fashion. I'm just going to go ahead and make that an integer as well. We can apply some scaling factors to this, and you can also, in the item name, you could also put a string tag name, an Intusoft tag name that's a string, inside of curly brackets. If you're going to do that, then you're going to want to have this checkbox checked that says accept tag name in the item column. And what that does is it prevents the curly brackets from being interpreted as a path name that might be in the OPC server itself. So you have a choice there of whether or not you're going to use tag names inside of curly brackets, or whether it tries to use those curly brackets as part of the path name as well. So now that we have this configured, that's all I did really was choose this server that's already running on my PC, and then pointed to a couple of tag names. I'm going to go ahead and save this worksheet as worksheet number 1. And now that I have that configured, I'm just going to go back to maybe my main screen here and put on maybe some bar graphs or something here. Let's do this. Let's just put a rectangle on the screen, and for this one we will tie it to, we have to turn it into a bar graph, and here we're going to put it to the integer tag ramp XL1, and back to my server, ramp XL1 goes from 0 to 100, and XL3 goes to 10,000. So we're going to have to set that up as limits. So this one goes from 0 to 100, so that one is configured okay. I'm going to go ahead and copy this one and change this to ramp XL3 and set this to 10,000. And just so we can show the values below here, I'm just going to put some text that will be some pound signs in here. And this one will go to ramp XL1. And again, I don't have to close that. I'm going to just keep that open, copy that over here, and change that to ramp XL3. So now we should be able to see the values coming in from the server. And since the server is already running, I don't have to make sure that that's launched. And there we go. I'm getting my values in from the OPC server. So that's as easy as it can get with OPC DA communications. Now let's go back and take a look at some of the others. In the communications here, we also have OPC UA. So you can see here where I put in that name up in the top of that worksheet as well. Back here under OPC UA, this is a little bit different. What we decided to do is provide a little bit nicer interface to allow you to switch between the different connections that you're using. If you noticed up here in the OPC DA 2.05, all the information up here for your connection is part of the worksheet, part of the header itself. We've changed that concept, and here under the OPC UA we provide a connections mechanism. Now here I'm going to right click on this and insert, and here I'm going to name this connection. So I might call this OPC UA underscore server 1. And here I'm going to set up of how we connect to that particular server. Now I'm going to browse, and this will choose what's called the discovery server and allow me to find or discover endpoints that are associated with that I can get to from this particular network. In this case, I'm going to use my PC, and there's a sample server that it has found, and here's the path that I can get to that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and I'll go ahead and put in that, and then I can choose to use security if I wanted to. And here, as I mentioned in our webinar video, we talk about assigning certificates and getting certificates into here. I'm going to test this connection, and I can go ahead and see that that's successful. And now what I can do is, now that I have that named connection, OPC UA Server 1, now I can go back up here and configure a client worksheet for OPC UA. And here I might put OPC UA client worksheet. And in this client worksheet, I'm going to choose that named connection that would be OPC UA Server 1. And in this way, I don't have to keep, if I want to change something about that connection or change servers, I don't have to change the entire worksheet. I just point to what this is pointing to, and that helps me out there. Here under Advanced, we have some other settings. I'm not going to go through these individually. It allows you to fine-tune your read and write actions a little bit. You also have a reload trigger down here, so more can be found on our help system about that. Here you have status message, publish rate. You can disable this worksheet, and I believe in here you can actually decide whether or not you're talking to the root of this project, or dive all the way down in various branches, and how you can get down into that. But as we did in the OPC UA, in the DA, here in UA as well, I can browse to a particular server that we have a link to, and dive all the way down. Let's say we're going to go down into dynamic. Let's see, we'll go under boilers. If I remember right, there's some information under boilers. There's a pipe. Here's simulation. So you might have some tags buried down in here. Let's see, pipe. And there's an output. So that's you see that data type is a double in that case. And then I would assign that in a similar fashion to an Indusoft tag name here. Okay, so that's about all I'm going to cover under OPC UA. You can see how that is set up, and I don't have necessarily some simulation going on in an OPC UA server that I have loading. That's a test server that we have from the OPC Foundation. Also notice down here in the output window that I'm getting some OPC messages. One of the good things that we can do is turn on OPC messages in here, and now when our project is running, go ahead and run that, and then I'll swap back to our development environment. You can see the actual information that's coming in. I'll go ahead and pause that, and we can scroll up and down there and see the information, the actual values that we're getting, the quality. So lots of good information to help you troubleshoot that if you need to. Go ahead and click that and delete that, clear that out of there. Another thing that I should point out that I haven't at this point, I pointed out here that in this case we have been an OPC DA client, but Indusoft Web Studio can also be a server to other clients. And to configure that, you would set up here under Tasks, and you would choose the the Studio SCADA OPC server, and then start that. And at that point, other clients could get at our tags, any of our application tags, our project tags, or even system tags for that matter, using the same ideas that we just did as a client. So here you can also see that we can be an HDA OPC server here, and then here's where we can see how the other client runtimes are running. So go ahead and get out of that. The OPC.net is similar, and I'm going to go ahead and insert one here. Here I can give it a connection name and point to, let's see, insert. I can give it a connection name, point to a particular server. Now I don't happen to have one running here, but you would give it a connection name. We would call it, let's say, OPC.net. And once I do that, then I can configure a client worksheet in here as well and point to that connection. Also under here you'll find some different configurations, and in a similar fashion I can go ahead and browse down into a branch and then browse to a particular tag name as well. Now the last one that I want to cover is the OPC XML DA. Now this is the one that is an add-on. It also configures in a very similar fashion where we would set up a connection name, but here you have a choice. Notice up here it was OPC DA 2.5. Well, we also have DA 2.x, which this can be a client of, and Data Access or DA 3.0. How is this different? In this case, this one down here is a multi-threaded, where this one up here is a single thread. So it behaves a little bit differently. You can get improved performance and see some different functionalities there. In addition to those two, it also supports XMLDA standard 1.0. So there's some reasons to possibly go to this one over this one, although most people choose the one that's included, and it works just fine for them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. I do want to show you one other thing. I'm going to go ahead and close these and show you an import tool that we have. As part of Indusoft Web Studio, we can go to the import wizard and choose an OPC server database. So I'm going to go ahead and click next here, and I can choose whether or not to import duplicate tags or replace duplicate if it finds duplicates, replace them with the new ones. I can choose whether it's local or remote, and if it's local, very similar to I had on the client worksheet, I can just use this and choose from the list of available ones that I have running on my PC. At this point, I could dive down into the branch if I just wanted to see a subset of that data. That might make that a little bit more efficient. And I could choose to add a prefix at the front of the tag name. Maybe I thought I was going to bring in multiple server connections, and maybe I wanted to call this server 1 in front of the item name or tag name. So it could do that, add that in front of the tag name as well. And whether or not it wanted to use the item path for the tag name. In this case, I'm not going to use a prefix. I'm just going to click on OK. I'm going to pull in from the tags, the items from that server that I just showed to you a moment ago, and click on Next, and we can see that there's it's going to try to bring in 162, but it did find some issues with there's some overlapping ones with the date, maybe time, some other ones. So it's it's warning me I already had XL1 and XL3 in the application. There's some other ones that it found too. So you can go ahead and check this list before you go ahead and import. Notice down here in the bottom corner I have 104 tags, and without any cutting of this video, when I click finish, it goes ahead and it imports those tags, and it just brought in all those tags without cutting. That was real time. So what has done is created a new worksheet here, and it titled it Worksheet Generated by the Import Wizard. And when I go in here and take a look, it's set that up for me, and it's brought all those tags in. So now I don't have to type any of those in. It brought everything right on in, all the way down to all the different ramps and everything. So those will be available. So that saves you some time and effort if you have the ability to browse or import those tags from the existing server. So that is everything that I wanted to show you on OPC today. Again, if you have any more details that you want, please feel free to view our webinar video that is online. And any feedback that you have, please let us know. And thank you for taking part in these videos, and have a great day.